At what ranks or what stage do students tend to leave their Aikido training?
Typically, after I mean, usually it's in the first month.
So after, if they haven't left in their first month, what are because I think that we've talked about this, there are stages, 2 critical stages that students tend to leave their training, and they have different reasons for that. So what are the stages that students tend to leave?
Well, it's typically in this dojo, it's around third kyu and third dan. It's easy just to pick an arbitrary number like, oh, it's third kyu or third dan, but that's when it usually happens. Third kyu is somewhere around 3 to 5 years. Third dan is somewhere around 12 to 15 years.
Okay.
The thing about it is that every person goes through these 3 stages of development, where they do Aikido with their body, physicalness, pushing, pulling, using physical strength, speed, your stamina, to transfer to where you have to do Aikido only with your technique, to transfer to where you can only do Aikido with your mind, and then later you only do Aikido with your spirit.
Right.
Because at every stage of the game, as you get older, things start to drop away. What you could do in the first year of training, you can't do in your 30th year of training.
Right, or 40th.
Yeah. And so it becomes this thing where usually those people leave, it's a mental thing. It's a mental physical thing, I would say. And it has to do with effectiveness.
And we're talking first about third kyu.
But third kyu and third dan, they're both about effectiveness. That's where you really start to see, because third kyu is where you start to get a hang of Aikido. What you do looks, as Ken Watanabe would say, it looks like Aikido.
Okay.
And so when you start to get a hang of it, you start to go like, well, I don't know.
I mean, are you saying that by the time you get to third kyu, the movements that you're making, you can do Ikkyo, Nikkyo, you can do Tenkan, but now you're like, all of a sudden you say to yourself like, well, if this person did this to me, I'm not sure that it's going to work, or like you...
Yeah, too many options on the table.
Ikkyo,
Kotegaeshi, Shihonage, what do I do?
You all of a sudden you have existential doubts about your technique.
Yeah, because you don't really know how to do it. You know what to do, but you don't know how or when to do it, because it's not truly second nature. And so that's where you start to think you're kind of all that, this third kyu, and then someone at a party chokes you out. Someone at a party knocks you out. Someone says, what are you going to do? And then you go, oh, I don't know. And then you quit. And then third dan is where you go, you're supposed to know supposed to know everything.
Right.
And then you go, my God, I don't know nothing. And then you just think, I don't know. I mean, I just have my doubts, right? So one, you're doubting it from a physical standpoint, and then the other one, you're doubting it from a mental standpoint. But it's about doubt, self-doubt. So third kyu, you're like, okay, if someone were to grab me, then I would do this thing. It's not second nature. Third dan, it's already second nature, but then you're like, it kind of doesn't work. I kind of didn't really know. I thought I knew it, but then I don't really know it. And then I used to use speed or physical strength, and I don't have that anymore.
Yeah.
Now I'm 30, now I'm 40, now I'm 50, and I don't know how to do it. So then what do I do? So the thing that's really about doubt. At every point in your training, you will be confronted with some challenge.
Right.
That challenge can be mental, that challenge can be physical, and it's as you surmount these challenges, we learn things about ourselves. Only time and experience will do that. Only time and experience, and if you just keep on going, will you let go of that thing. Because you can't let go of it. Like if you're third kyu and then you don't know how to make the technique second nature yet, there's nothing you could read. There's nothing you could do that you could just go, Satori, enlightenment, that you go, oh yeah. The thing is that you're afraid, you have this doubt that Aikido is for you.
Right.
And it really comes back to you as a human being. And so one is a physical challenge, one is a more mental challenge. Third kyu is more physical, third dan is more mental. Because you think, I don't know what I'm doing, I don't know how to do this stuff.
When you reach third dan in Aikido, that's probably 15 years, right?
Something like that.
Something like that. So if you've made it 15 years, what qualities do you need to have to get past that feeling of like, oh, so if you're leaving after 15 years, you probably have some serious doubts. I've wasted all this time. It's an experience I shouldn't have done. What do you have to do to get past that doubt?
Well, see, the biggest thing that people quit for in the later years and later ranks is that they can't do it physically anymore. I just can't do this physically anymore. But what they're missing is that you have to Moriji Mochida, the famous 10th Dan Kendo teacher, talks about at 70 you're going to lose your legs, right? At 50 you have to have developed you would have to have developed your understanding and technical aspects of Kendo by the time you turn 50, because by 60 this happens, by 70 this happens, and so on and so forth. So when you start to lose the physicalness of the movement, then self-doubt is going to come in.
Right.
You go, oh man, I'm not as flexible as I used to be. I'm not as powerful as I used to be. I just did that one move and I sprained my ankle. I punched that guy, now I sprained my finger. Oh man. And then that doubt comes in.
Right.
And so at every stage in the game, so at every stage of the game, you're using physical, technical, mental, and spiritual power to do the techniques, some more than others.
Right.
When you're beginning, it's all physical, very little technical, almost no mental and no spiritual. As the higher you go, the more technical, mental, spiritual you get. And then as the farther you go, obviously the older you get. And then by the time you reach 6th Dan, 60 years old, you're not going to be able to do Aikido the same way as you did it when you were 20.
Right.
But the thing is, your mind says you should be doing it at the same level as it was when you were 20. That you're beating up young people, that you're doing this and doing that. And then when you cannot do it physically or technically, self-doubt comes in.
Right.
And when self-doubt comes in, you go, oh, this is not for me. No, you got to learn. One of the greatest lessons I learned from Furuya Sensei is that Furuya Sensei is like 5'6", 5'7", and over like 250 pounds, right? He's my height. I mean, he's a little bit taller than me, but way skinnier than me. Like, I'm very stocky. But he was able to move like so effortlessly.
Right.
And part of that is because he had to give up his physical body.
Right.
Because by then, he had already had two really bad back injuries.
A knee injury.
And two really bad knee injuries. And so by not physically being able to work out and having depression and all that stuff, he just gains all this weight. But then he's still able to move because he had the technical aspects mastered, because, I mean, he got his black belt when he was like 13 years old, right? So by then, he'd already been doing Aikido for 45 years.
Yeah.
And so the way he can move, he moves that way because he's really heavy on the spiritual, mental, and technical aspects of Aikido,
Right.
and very weak on the physical. But he's able to move because he's given up the physicalness of it. And so when I say it's the greatest lesson, because when you look at it, you have to learn how to do Aikido with no physical or little technical, more mental, more spiritual, or whatever it is where you're working with that. And so when you reach third kyu, you have all this physicalness, you have a little bit of technicalness, but no mental and no spiritual. When you reach third dan, you may have a little bit less physical, but a lot of technical, but then very little mental and very little spiritual.
Right.
And so that's where you're getting this doubt. But it's not about, and I tell you guys this all the time, it's not about throwing people down. It's not about throwing people down. You got to get rid of the idea of throwing people down.
Right.
Because when that person attacks you, you have to be able to move in. And then the purer you are, the more you've let go of your body, the purer you can move in. The more efficient, smooth. But what happens is, I'm thinking, hi, who I am, embarrassment, and then you can't move in this deeply. So you have to be able to let go of those things, and most people can't.
Yeah.
So that's the hard part, is trying to understand, like, how do I, what stage am I at? The Q ranks, Shodan and Nidan, are just merit ranks.
Right.
Sandan, Yondan, 3rd and 4th degree black belt, those are technical ranks. Godan, Rokudan, and above, those are teacher ranks.
Right.
And so
Right.
So we call this idea shu-ha-ri. Shu is where you memorize the techniques in a rote way, and they're exactly the way that everyone is doing them. Ha is where you really kind of find out the details, right, of the techniques. Ri is where you break the form and they can just move flowingly. So shu is third kyu, ha is sandan, third dan, and ri is where you kind of break through.
Right.
Where you don't have to do, you have to worry about effectiveness. You have to worry about these things. At every level, you're trying to understand what Aikido is. You know, at every stage of your training, there's all these things that you learn to work on. All these little shortcomings, all these obstacles that you're confronted with. And so, like, for instance, you're at third kyu and you're like, I don't know what to do. You know, I don't know if I should. You come to the teacher and you go, hey, I'm having this problem. And the teacher says, oh, just do this.
Right.
And then you go, oh. And then you work on it and then you go, oh, you know, that person was right. But rarely people come talk to me and they just quit. And you're like, dude, if you would have just come talk to me, I would have told you, oh, yeah, I've been there. I've done that. Just about everything that you've experienced or are going to experience, I've already experienced. Not because I'm better, I'm just more experienced as a practitioner.
Right.
I have 32 years. You have 2 years. So there's some stuff that I've probably seen or done that can benefit you if you would just ask me, hey, I'm having this problem. But what happens is you become embarrassed. Everybody around me.
Yeah, people do have embarrassment.
Everybody around me knows what's going on. I don't know what's going on. I shouldn't be here. Oh, everyone else can fight in the parking lot, but not me. I should just quit. No,
Yeah.
the phrase that you have to learn and have to really hammer into your soul is, let it go. Let that go.
Yeah.
Whatever that thing is, you gotta just move on.
Well, that's really a thing that people face in every aspect of their life.
Yeah.
People hold on to things, and it leads to anxiety, frustration, depression.
Yeah, because if you look at Miyamoto Musashi's 21 Rules of Living, 21 rules to live the path alone, the very first rule is accept things as they are, right? But in order to do that as a, kind of a wide swathing topic, accept things as they are, yeah, okay,
It's
well,
very hard to do.
I'm feeling inadequate physically. No, let it go. I feel like I'm not a very good fighter. Let it go.
Yeah.
Because all those things impair the way.
But that as a life rule, whether it's from Miyamoto Musashi, or from a Stoic, or something that you say or I say, that's a very, very hard thing for people to accept. So that's like, when you say like accept things as they are, people are able to change things as they are in terms of how you perceive them. But you're right, like accepting things as they are is sort of like the first and almost most important step to being able to confront reality, live live a fulfilling reality. And certainly in martial arts, I think the importance of accepting things as they are is all about having the ability to confront problems. I mean, martial arts is a strategy for confronting violence.
No, a strategy for confronting problems.
You have to make a realistic assessment of your situation.
At every stage of the game, you must make a realistic assessment of your physical, technical, mental, emotional, and spiritual bank account, and see this is what you use to make the techniques work. Okay, and then when you're at the third kyu or third dan, where am I at? What are the problems that I'm confronting? And then if we go with your analogy, that or what you're saying is that the martial arts is a practice in problem solving.
Yeah.
And that at every stage and at every age, you will have to confront something, whether it be a guy in the street or because your leg doesn't move the way it does anymore.
Yeah.
Aikido is not a physical art. Aikido is a mental, emotional, spiritual art that begins physically, right? And so at third kyu, don't get caught up in all the what should I do things. Is this effective? At third dan, don't get caught up in am I effective? What does this really mean? Just if you like it, just train, because at every turn of the road, you will be confronted with something that you have to overcome. And that's what the martial arts teaches you from the very first day, overcoming the self. And that's why Sensei advocated Masakatsu Agatsu, The true victory is the victory over yourself.